According to that, it's
In-depth race recaps.
He's shown speed, he's shown dominance at other racetracks.
Pit stops and strategy.
Hell yeah, boys. Let's go. Race strategy, man.
Fantasy racing insights.
Talking about being a team in the summer. We did it. Good job, boys.
Your weekly home for everything Ryan Blaney and Team 12.
Good job, Timmy. Here's the many more, fellas. Thank you.
This is the Team Blaney Podcast.
Let's go race for a championship.
Welcome, everyone, to the 2025 season, episode 9 of the Team Blaney Podcast. My name is Kate Mez. Alongside me is co-host Steve. That's right, it's another Team Mez takeover. As always, this podcast is brought to you by fans for fans. Collectively, we've been following the drivers of the Blaney Racing family for 2 decades, and Team Blaney itself launched on social media in 2014. Each weekly episode of the podcast offers an in-depth analysis of Ryan Blaney's latest NASCAR Cup Series race, news, notes, and line up a special guest throughout the year. This week, we'll break down the number 12 team's run in the Straight Talk Wireless 400 from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Hi.
welcome, everybody. Like I said, this will be week 3. I think we've done this live. So if you hear the podcast during the week and you want to check out the live, usually we're going to try to shoot for 8:30 Eastern time every Monday night and do it on at least our Facebook pages and YouTube pages. And what the great part about that is also you're going to get a video version of the podcast on those. They download afterward, and they'll be there for all time, for all eternity. So you'll be on TV for a lot for this week. And like I said, TikTok, we're still working with TikTok, trying to figure out why our service won't use them right now. Something's going on with that. But we want to talk about this week's race, or we just want to talk about next week's race?
We can talk about the first, 3 quarters of this race, because it was great. That part was great.
This was, one of those weeks, and everybody, at social media afterward was so, trying to find the good and the bad of it.
Yeah.
Did it, was it, because there was good. There was so much good until it wasn't good. And then you got what happened at the end. And it just.
Well, let's just get into it.
Okay. Well, the whole weekend, I'd say we can talk about the trucks and Xfinity series too, because I don't know, Friday and Saturday, were pretty good races to watch. And I'm going to say this: Friday, Larson spins himself out, gets fresh tires, does a restart, and then he still wins the thing. So, of course, they're going to talk Saturday all day during the race about doing what? Winning 3.
Yeah.
But luckily, he didn't get there.
No.
On Saturday.
No, he didn't.
Big City race. So, thought, okay. And then in Sunday's race, I kind of thought, couple times he messed himself up so badly during the race. He had a pit road incident at one point. And I thought, well, he won't be in any problem at all. And actually, the way Ryan was running, we thought, well, I don't think anybody's going to have any problem at all. So
yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the weekend itself, because we started out with Saturday's practice qualifying, and I just had a couple notes. We've been trying to do a pre-race show on Sunday, so you might have heard a little bit of this before, but when they go out, he's in session 1, 25 minutes each session. And, those are kind of split up now differently. And I think they do them based on the metric still, but it's like first half of the field and second half of the field in the metric instead of every other. So next week, again, he'll probably be in group 1, just based on the finish. But Ryan waits to go out. He blends in after some other people are already on the track, and his first lap up to speed was P7 overall, and then jumped to P6, but it was only about a little over a tenth and a half back of the 23 car. But by lap 8, he was passing cars during practice, which is just crazy. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have to see that, but it was pretty good. Passed the 43, the 34 passes the 35 on lap 11. And of course, TV goes to show you last year's finish. And next year, I can't wait for next year because they'll show you a couple finishes.
Yeah.
But the 20 lap average, the 23 was a 33.39, and Ryan was 33.44. So everything looked like a normal, great weekend for the car and for the team. Lap 25 average, he was actually P1, and it was like about a half second per lap on that average, faster than most of the guys in his session. So once again, though, he's kind of split up by some point standing things too. So session 2 kicks in, and Larson ends up being the fast in that session, which kind of expected. Expected Larson will do what he does during practice, the same thing he's going to do during the race. The 5 and the 24 were up there in 20 lap average with Bubba and Ryan. So those were like the top 4 cars to look out for. Ryan went out for qualifying 10th overall and put up a lap to put him 3rd. And then just crazy to watch guy after guy after guy not get into that top 3 or 4. It was amazing until the last, what was it, about the last 5 guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was cloud cover. It was this crazy thing about cloud cover. And I brought it up in the Discord chat because I was there in Bristol when Dave was running the 22 car. And we were there on the Saturday for the qualifying. And he put up a lap and was top of the board for about 20 minutes of qualifying. And then a cloud came over the track. And the last 2 guys, I don't even remember who they were. The last 2 guys beat him. He ended up P3 to start the race. And then that was the infamous Tommy Baldwin had the wrong air pressures in the tires race to start the race, which I don't know if anybody will remember that, but bring that up real quick because that happened. And back on the old internet show, I don't know, have you ever listened to the old streaming show?
No.
Back on Quickest Lap, we actually had Tommy Baldwin on that week afterward.
Oh, yeah.
He literally admitted, this is the best part about Tommy, he literally admitted that he did put the wrong air pressure in the tires. He had the air pressure in there for the for what would be the spring race, and it was the summer race, and the temperatures were different, and the car did. It fell like a rock. They went green flag through a pit cycle, even where Dave had pitted. A couple other cars hadn't. He ended up 2 laps down, 3 laps down, just ruined the day of a really, really good car. But that was a long time ago. So let's get off that. Let's start talking about the race itself. We're going with stages of 80, 165, 267, 10 sets of tires, a fuel run of 61 to 68, pit stall 39, open in front, and the 11 behind him, which ends up being a little bit of an issue later on one of the pit stops. 43 to the rear for some changes. And Ryan on the radio says, we're going to try to keep the right side clean here. It was something he actually said. The 48 chooses the inside lane for the start. And I, just kind of noted that just because sometimes, if that line moves fast and runs on the outside. But I put up a TikTok today. If anybody's watching our TikTok page, go to it. It's actually literally from turns 1 and 2 of this restart down to the backstretch. And during that, Ryan goes from 6th to, 4th. He's so he passed 2-3 guys on the inside. Guys popped in, out. Next thing you know, going into turn 3 is actually all the way up to 4th here to start the race. So top of 3 wide there. So by lap 2, P3, battling the 4 car at lap 4, racing the 21 for P2. Lap 5 passes the 21 and to get to P2 there. And he did it in turn 4. Lap 6, battling the 48 for P1, passes the 48 on the front stretch here, comes down behind him and kind of swings out underneath him. P1, here we go. Here comes the fun part of the day. If you're watching on the Max in-car cameras, it was so beautiful. What a great sight. Just teared up a little bit watching lap after lap out the front windshield and just listening to Tim basically giving him the gaps is what it ended up being.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So running the wall in 3 and 4 at lap 10 and lap 15 here, 1 second lead over the 21. And then Ryan says we're a little bit, needs a little bit of turn on entry. And then Jonathan's copied that. We've got a plan for that. At lap 20, 3-second lead on the 48. Lap 30, a 4.8-second lead on the 48. At, who's in P2 now. So 12's in P1. And the 20, I got a note here. The 21's in P4. The 2-car P7. And Joey into P10. At that point, all 4 of the guys are in the top 10. Lap 32, the green flag cycle begins. And Ryan comes the next lap. So this is pretty good to do. Like as soon as everybody starts going, you got to come with them because about 2 seconds a lap faster on fresh tires. So if everybody put it before you and got 2 laps in before you, they gain 4 seconds on you pretty quick. So they come in, they do about a 10.02 stop here. At lap 40 here, we're back to up into the top 8, P8 here. The cycle's still continuing. A couple guys decide to run along, including Larson. But lap later, everyone's pretty much pitting. Ryan gets back to P1 here. At lap 45, he's got an 8-second lead on P2, which is the 48. Now, the 11 unlaps himself, which I kind of took note of that too, just because he had pitted later. He got into fresher tires, would be fresher by like 10 laps or so, 8 to 10 laps, but fresh enough to make his move back onto the lead lap. At lap 57, the 8, the 43, and the 3 are all racing in front of Ryan here, and they're all trying not to get lapped. And this was just ridiculous because Timmy a couple times, what he did was he said he was going to go down and talk to somebody, basically looking for the other spotters to get them out of the way. They're really holding up a good car, a car that was 3 or 4 tenths at least, maybe even half a second a lot faster, but you didn't want to make a dangerous move around them, So Ryan says we're tighter here, tighter on entry. Lap 60, though, it's an 8.1 second lead to the 48. By lap 70, it's up to a 10.2 lead on 48, and then we get a caution for the 20, just randomly spinning on the front stretch. Ryan says, like my drive off of 2. John says we're going to pit when it's open, so only 10 laps to the end of the stage here, but I think everybody ends up pitting. I don't think anybody goes on an alternate strategy here. And in P1, out P1. It was a 10.012 second stop as far as I can figure. 4 tires and fuel. Tim says something about a warning of pulling out a line here. Now, I don't know if they're talking about the initial start and what Ryan did to go 3 wide going into 1 and 2 or not. We're not really sure. We don't really hear about it again. And Jonathan says we're going to do orange here at the break. And once again, we really don't know what that code word means because really they just did a 4-tire stop at the break here. But Ryan chooses the bottom here with the 4 pushing him. And on the outside ends up being the 48 and the 24. And that, kind of like it's going to be a little tough because their teammates are going to work together. But pretty much in the next lap or so, Ryan clears the 48 and, actually turns 3 and 4 here. And Ryan wins the stage, goes on cruises, wins the stage. Yep. It's just what I wanted to see. I usually say to Adam about stinking up the show, You have the best car, the best driver, get to the front, lead all day, make everybody else figure out how to get faster, right? Ryan says we needed overall grip on a short run, so because that was just they knew it was only going to be like 6-8 laps. So hitting for 4 tires here in P1, out P2 to the 48. Now, 10.30 second stop is still a really good stop. The 48, I went and found it. They made a 9-1. So for the guy who was 1 spot behind you to get 1 spot in front of you, they did one of their best stops of the year, of the season. So, And during this is when the 21 and the 22 and the 5 bang into each other in pit road. Yeah. Synchronized skating or synchronized swimming. It looked like they both spun and did a pirouette. And the 5-car bounced off the 21, and the 21 and the 22 hit, and they turned up backwards, and then they pulled back into their pit stalls. There's a great picture on NASCAR.com on that. So for the 77 stays out here. So this really makes this restart goofy because the 77's got tires that are a couple laps old, but from what they were saying on the radios, he did not really run hard during the the last couple laps of the, so
He just wanted to stay on the lead lap.
yeah,
That's all he was trying to do.
So
Which he did, and
this is actually
it worked.
if you follow him along as this goes, and we didn't really follow him real good here, he actually kind of hangs in the top 10. So it actually kind of worked out for him. Restarting at with the 77 on the inside, Ryan on the outside behind the 48. And they both figure they'll go around him at some point. Not just because the tires are a little bit newer, but because they know he's slower. Restart by lap 87, the 48 and the 24 get clear in front of Ryan. At lap 90, we pass the 24 up to P2. And at this point, the camera shuts off. So I make note of that when I say the camera, I mean Ryan's inside the car camera showing his rear view actually shut off during the race. And I don't know if TV covered this at all, but so this kind of will change the way Tim spots things too, because he mostly can spot out the front side and give him a clearance on a peripheral vision type problem where the car might be behind you off to your side, but directly behind you, or you can see him, changes the way you race guys too. Lap 95 here, we clear the 48 in 3 and 4, get to P1. Lap 100, 1.1 second lead on P2, which is the 11 at this time here. 10 laps later, they ask for a balance update. Lap 115, it's a 2.9 second lead on P2. At lap 118, green flag, pit starts are starting here. The 48 and the 28 pull in. We've hit the next lap here, and it's a 12.0 stop. And the 11 and 5 are running long. He comes out behind the 11 in P18 at that point till the cycle continues. At lap 123, P10 on the lead lap. At lap 126, the 21 is the leader at this point. The 22 is P2 and Ryan's P3, which was pretty cool to watch too. They were all together. But there were a couple things that had to move around. People had to pit still. So at lap 127, the cycle completes. Ryan back to P1 here with a 1.9 second lead on the 24. At lap 130, 2.1 second lead on the 24. At lap 140, a 3.5 second lead on the 24. And at lap 150, the 34 and the 35 are playing tiddlywinks in front of Ryan again. And this crushes the lead. That's the problem. Is the 24 now is only like a second back. And all he's trying to do is figure out a way around both these guys. And if the one wouldn't pass the other, but they were both side by side half the time. Yeah. And at lap 160, he finally gets by the 35, but now the 34 is still in the way. At lap 162, 3 wide with the 11 and the 1 being a lapper, and the 5 ends up passing. So we're back to P3 here, and the 11 wins the stage, and the 5 ends up P2, and Ryan P3. Now, he was still faster than the 11 and the 5, but this whole messing around with lap traffic and trying to be nice and not hitting anybody and not hurting your car kind of got in the way. Ryan's P3 in stage 2, though, so, stage points. P1 stage points, P3 stage points, and actually that's going to be huge with what's happening here. He's still, during the break, a little bit mad at the lappers, but then they kind of reset here. Jonathan was trying to help him reset the mirror, and it didn't work, unfortunately. Whatever it was, didn't reset the mirror. They got to pit around the 11. So here's the problem, okay? The 11, and this will be a visual on the thing here, if I can do it right, but on the camera.
There you go.
There we go. So the 11, I don't know how far to the right of his box he was, but he was enough where Ryan had to pull in on an angle. And I don't think he hit the mark exactly where he needed to hit the mark. Now, the pit stop itself is pretty clean. I didn't see anything, at least through the camera, that I could see the front end of anybody getting hung up or anything like that. But once you've kind of changed the position of where you want to be, the guys, they do this on the fly, but, it's a 10.48. Now, all day they were around that. Every time they made those kind of stops, they pretty much held serve with everybody else, except for when the 48 does a 9-1. So he gets hit by the 9 car also as he's pulling off on a pit road. He's like going out, and the 9 comes flying out of his pit and hits Ryan. And we're not sure if Ryan's going to have damage on the left front. They tell him it looks fine.
He thought he did.
Yeah.
They killed it. But
Yeah, but it was fine.
they said it was okay.
So, he was in P3 but out P9, and those were two issues that actually happened. So once again, the people going crazy about pit crews and stuff like that. The guys on the pit crew did a fine job adjusting to what was happening around them, hitting the mark in the pit box. Just may have thrown them a half a second because they weren't where they needed to be. That half a second could be 2 or 3 positions. Then Chase Elliott hits them. Could be another position or 2 on pit road. So these things all add up and cause them to be a little bit further back for the restart. But, they're P9 for the restart here. The leader is the 5 card, taking the outside. Ryan takes the inside, end up on row 4 here. We're restarting at lap 173 there, I think it is. Sorts out the P10. 2 laps later, P11 here, and at lap 176, P8. At lap 177, passes the 2 car, get to 7th. At lap 178, passes the 45 to get to 6th. At lap 179, passes the 24 to get to 5th. The 23 is the lead at this time. Kind of take a note of that because that was really kind of a cool thing that his car was doing really well. At lap 181, passed the 48 to get to P4, and at lap 187 passes the 11 to get to P3. Now, at lap 190, the 23, the 5, and the 12 were all running against the wall and in 3 and 4. And at lap 200, he's still P3, and the 5 and the 23 are racing in front of him. Now, watching the in-car camera and also looking at timing and scoring, he's a second back of those 2 guys, maybe a second and a half at the most. And for the most part, just watching them toy with each other, there was really a good gap behind him, running good lap times, not hurting his tires or his equipment, just kind of biding his time.
Yeah.
We also know there's at least one pit stop going to come up if it stays green the whole way. So really, truthfully, the whole thing looked great.
Yeah.
Comfortable, yeah. So it didn't look like we're going to have any problems. It was over a second back to the 11 car.
Yeah.
Ryan tells them we're a little tight in 3 and 4 here, and then at lap 207, no warning, nothing,
just
boom, on fire. Gets it off the track pretty quick, although I guess they had to clean up some stuff. Took a little bit.
Yeah.
Brought it all the way around because of where it happened. It happened right on the front stretch, right near the start finish. Went directly to the pit box. They were going to go right to the garage, but it was on fire. So they wanted to, they told him to climb out of there, go ahead and just get the fire extinguishers, and did a TV interview right away. It was pretty upbeat.
Yeah.
Wasn't nothing, but
didn't do anything wrong. That's
no. And
we can do.
we found some stuff we want to read about it here in a little bit too. So once we finish the race itself here, ends up being P36 here, 124 laps led. They restart lap 217, 23 goes to the lead. And then the 48 ends up taking the lead at one point. And then with 10 to go, the 5 passed. Actually, the 23 took the lead back, and with 5 to go, the 10 to go, the 5 passes the 23. Oh, I'm sorry. That's with 10 to go, the 5 passed the 23 for P2. I'm sorry. And then the 6 to go, the 5 passed the 48 to win. So Larson, everybody's odds-on favorite wins the race. But the first stat we heard was Brian going into the season, 5 career engines blown going into the season.
Hadn't had one since 2018. The 600.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and we were at that one. The car was on fire in turns 1 and 2.
Oh yeah,
we were there. We were.
I was sick that day.
Yeah, really.
All I remember is I was very sick that day.
We kind of went, okay, we're done watching the race.
Flu.
Yeah, fought hard to be there. So 2 so far this year. Now, how these things are worded are very interesting, So it's a statement from Travis Geisler, and this was on NASCAR.com. And okay, he says the team will put more over the data to ensure nothing on its that it's or on Blaney's end, like shifting, over revving, or overheating contributed to the recent issues. And he indicated no signs of those have shown yet. So what they're saying is they don't seem to think that it's anything that Ryan did in the car. From there, you just got to lean on Roush, Yates engines and Ford to fix the problem. He says, we have a lot of problems that we need to fix from this weekend. We've got to outsource that one and let somebody else handle it and have that trust that over the years, they've given us incredibly reliable engines and really have delivered for us. And they've just got to go to the drawing board a little bit here and figure out what's going on. I think it looks like a couple different modes of failure here, I would say. So maybe there's not necessarily a clear direction, but that's up to them. I kind of said this to a couple people today that the two sides wouldn't blame each other.
Yeah.
Like I could have probably put a message in and maybe gotten no answer. That's all I was going to get was no answer, no matter who I asked. Because they usually don't. The engine builder and Penske, Yates engines and Penske aren't really going to throw each other under the bus here. Very strange that he's the only driver it's happened to so far this year.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that makes
Is
you
that
think.
just the unluck of the draw?
Right. But this statement here, well worded, almost like an attorney did it. But the reality is, if you read it, it sounds like they're saying it's not Blaney's fault. They're saying that something needs to be done maybe over at Yates. I love the way he says, we have a lot of problems that we need to fix from this weekend, and we've got to outsource that one and let somebody else handle it and have the trust that over the years, they've given us incredibly reliable engines and really have delivered for us. So what does that sound like to you?
Well, I mean, it's as diplomatically worded as possible.
Yeah.
They should be able to figure that out.
And it's one of those things like, Adam brought up to me in a text last night about like the 54 car having blown engines in the last year or two. And I said, no offense to the 54 car, and he's Joe Gibbs's, grandson. But Toyota Racing Development is doing engines for all the Toyotas, and I guarantee you that certain cars get a little more attention than others. And I almost feel like the same thing with Ford program and the Yates engines. And I would think that of all the guys, Ryan's the main guy that gets the attention, that his car, his engines, when being built, are are going to be the ones that get that little extra polish on them, So that's what's really strange about it happening twice. And two different types of track. Somebody said a lot about the shifting and downshifting and upshifting, but this past weekend it really wasn't. There was no downshifting and upshifting. It was they put it in gear once they're out there, and then it's on throttle time and off throttle time, and how well you can pick up the throttle. So the scary part is they were so good both last week and this week. The 12 car itself had probably more speed than any other car on the track. No result to show for it, but I think it was the best car.
Oh, yeah.
I think. So, online it's easy to throw people under the bus and, but guarantee you, like somebody commented on something today and they were very mad at Yates, but I guarantee you Yates isn't trying to break things, and Yates is not out there going, let's see if we can get engines to blow up this week. I mean, that's their job, is to have engines that win races. Their big deal is when they win a race is winning the valve covers. They have a giveaway winning the valve covers, So
that wasn't their intent.
No, their intent is not to have something bad happen. And I guarantee you that every process probably today that they do was looked at and looked over and figured out and went through, and what did we do? And did we do something different? And did we outsource the part that we shouldn't have when we were building this engine? I mean, I guarantee you that at Yates and then at the shop, people were like looking at the setups and things like that. But somebody made a joke about he had more on throttle time, like coming down straightaways. They were going faster than normal because they were actually cornering better than they ever have. And you know what? I don't think that made a difference to the engine blowing up, but it's true. They've been operating and running so well. So it's nothing but optimistic as long as we don't get an engine to blow up that we're, going to have the speed he needs to win a race here, then hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Anything else you want to say about the DNF? 3 of them in 3 weeks now.
Well, everybody has like good luck streaks, bad luck streaks. Good luck, there's an ebb and flow. Would you rather have this now? Would you rather have this later? Get it out of your system now.
Yeah.
Let's get all the kinks out now. Let's move ahead. I mean, I think last year after Homestead, I feel like that's really kind of where things started to.
Well, everything happened after Homestead.
Shit.
Everything happened after.
So
after
let's
Homestead.
just do that.
So it's just that this Homestead's a lot earlier in the year this year. So let's go ahead and look at what the damage did to the standings in the top 10 here and the Cup Series standings.
Okay.
Since you've got that there.
Want me to go 1 to 10 or 10 to 1?
Go 1 to 10.
Okay. Well, leading in the standings right now is William Byron, followed in second by Kyle Larson. Then you've got Alex Bowman. In fourth, we have Tyler Reddick. Then Christopher Bell. Chase Elliott is in sixth. Bubba Wallace is in seventh. Eighth, we have Denny Hamlin. Ninth is Chris Buescher. And rounding out the top 10 would be the number 12 of Ryan Blaney.
Yeah. So no, you don't have to keep going unless there's anybody else you want to point out. But I mean,
Well, the 11th is Joey.
and then Josh Berry's actually 12.
Yeah.
So, still right with all his teammates pretty much.
Yeah.
And somebody made a point to say that if Austin didn't have his penalty, he would probably be 7th right now in the standings. So he would actually be the leader between all the teammates, which is pretty cool. Stage points, both stages totally helped out a ton. This week is another week. We'll talk about that in a couple of things here when we get to this week. But let's go ahead and recap our top 10 this week in the NASCAR Fantasy Live League. And best you want to go 10 to 1, I think. But the way the page is printed is kind of backwards. Yeah. I finished. What did I finish?
You finished. Where are you? Oh, 88.
Yeah. We'll explain this in a minute.
Okay. In 10. Right?
Yeah. I think that's. Is it lined up? Yeah, right below the
top?
name. Right below the name is the totals. Yeah. So, yeah, 10 below Brock H.
Brock H is 10, right?
Yes.
Okay. Bike 21 is tied for 8th with Go Larson. Then in 7th, we have Dr. Race Chaser. Then 3-way tie for 4th. We've got the Daisy Dukes, JD Racing. I know it's a 5-way. Right? Moose Hunter 1960. And then, I was just slow.
3. Yeah,
3 of them.
3,
Okay. Then in 3rd place is the Dalai Lama 4. In 2nd place, we have Penske Fan 24. And at the top of the board, we have Cheesehead Fan.
Now, why I said we want to explain what happened there is Adam. What was Adam? Adam was
50th.
50th, and we don't want to talk about you.
Well, those are my points. That doesn't say what number I was. Oh.
Yeah, you don't know. Actually, Adam was 22nd.
Yeah, he was 22nd. I was 95th.
Yeah. What happened was what I figured out to be about a 30-40 point swing.
That engine blow up really hurt me.
Really hurt our lineups. We both had Ryan in the lineup. And if you think about it, he had scored stage points in stage 1 and stage 2. If he finishes the race ahead of, it was at Hamlin, right? It was his matchup.
Yeah.
Finishes ahead of Hamlin, that's 10 points. If he finishes the race somewhere in the top 3 or 4 instead of 36, that's another 30 to 35 points. So we figure we both would have had about 45 points more and finished way higher.
I went from the top of the board to the bottom of the board.
In 1 week, yeah.
In 1 week.
But it was all based on one thing, really.
Yep.
I mean, just crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, let's see if we can do the overall standings.
Okay. I do not like how this is
Yeah, I didn't like how I said
printed
it.
at all.
I set it up really bad. It's my fault.
Okay. In ninth place, we have the Dalai Lama 4, tied with Bulldog 0277. Tied at 7th is Hawk Ease 07 and Jordaniels and Moose Hunter 1960 is in 6th. Sorry, they're in 6th.
Mhm.
Okay. Then in 5th is Blaney's Daisy. 4th, we have
Maniacal.
Thank you.
I know, it's a cool one. It's a cool name.
It is.
Once you figure it out.
When you didn't look at it before you start, it's really hard. Okay, tied at 2nd is Go 12 Go and Vans 12. And then at the top of the board, overall, we have Alyssa C.
I am still in third. Oh, I'm not still. I moved down to about 31st.
You're 31st.
Adam is in 43rd
43rd.
now. And you're moving up still.
Hey, considering I missed the entire
Just the first week. It was not her fault.
entire week.
It was not her fault. Things happen. But yeah, I'm looking down because I wrote notes of what we're doing in what order. And what's interesting is there's one more thing that happened yesterday, and it was like, what time did that tweet come out?
It was after the race sometime.
So Kyle Busch tweets out this whole thing about press conference at
Or no, news coming at 1851.
So most of us right away figured out those are numbers on the old cars he's driven, And then the speculation was crazy.
Oh,
He's,
wow.
he's retiring.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's switching to this team, to that team,
Yeah.
to this team.
You saw one that said Penske. I thought
Yeah.
that was funny.
That
I don't
was
know,
funny.
Yeah, I don't know where he was going. with Penske.
2311. I mean, pretty much any team,
I said that.
I think, had one.
I said what he did was he told Richard to hold his watch while he went and found a real team to drive for. That's what I said.
Well, the news is that he and Brexton will race head to head. They're going to be, it's going to be Wednesday, the 26th at Millbridge. It's going to be on Dirt Vision.
Oh,
But yeah, they'll
So-
be battling
and they'll
against each other.
be running those numbers. So that's going to be this week, this Wednesday.
So it says the 26th.
All right,
Yeah.
excellent. All right, let's talk about. Well, Bristol's usually our favorite track to go to. Although,
I mean, don't get me wrong. Bristol is in a category by itself. But I really do like it.
Martinsville, I started a camp. As you can tell, I'm wearing.
I'm so bummed because I'm hungry. I want those hot dogs, the chili dogs.
Mhm.
So it's so good right now.
Yeah, I got the Advanced Auto shirt on because that is the sponsor, of course, this week because we are going to Martinsville. Now, somebody's saying about how they're not allowed to go to Martinsville because he did bad last time they were there. I think we need to start a GoFundMe for the fall.
Yes,
Because the last 2 times that you and I have been there,
we are 2 for 2.
we were 2 for 2, 2 W's. So, somehow, some way, make sure that you keep us honest, and that by the end of the year, we are there somehow. Whatever we got to
We'll
do.
do
to
what
be
we
there,
can.
We'll do what we can from that point forward. But always enjoyable to head down to Martinsville.
Yeah.
The fact that's like in the middle of nowhere, coming from the north at least. When you come from the north, you got to get off a certain highway and go like 30 some miles across this, like these weird little roads and highways to get there. I mean, I know from the south it's probably a little bit different coming from the Charlotte.
Well, we have to cross the mountains.
Yeah, and that's part of what it is. But the track itself, super. Wi-Fi is great.
Yep.
We sat in some sections that you wouldn't think would have Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi was. We were sitting near the box actually the one time for the Wi-Fi, so it was totally awesome for sending out stuff. And it's not so big that you can't get to things like the last 2 years when we hurried up down to where they did Victory on the front stretch. We got down there pretty quick,
We did.
And the getting into the place, the getting out of the place is the only thing I think. The traffic just doesn't flow out of there very well out of the parking lots.
Not last year, but 2 years ago, I think we sat for 3 hours in the park. We didn't care
No.
because he made the playoffs and
Yeah.
we were just stoked. But yeah, we sat there for like 3 But I had an extra hot dog
You
still in my bag, so I
She
said
had- She had a glizzy waiting for backup. So this weekend, the lineup. We'll go ahead and give the lineup because actually I think all three series are going to be there this weekend. So starting Friday. Right?
Okay, starting Friday, March 28th at 2:05 p.m. we have the Craftsman Truck Practice on FS2, and then at 3:10 we'll be qualifying also on FS2. At 4:30 we've got Xfinity Practice on the CW, and at 5:35 is then qualifying on the CW. Then at 7:30 the Craftsman Trucks Boys and Girls Club of the Blue Ridge 200 will be on FS1. On Saturday, March 29th at 2:05, we've got Cup Series practice on Prime. 3:10 will then be qualifying on Prime. And then at 5 o'clock, the Xfinity Series, the U.S. Marine Corps 250 on the CW. Sunday, March 30th, 3 o'clock p.m., the Cup Series Cookout 400 coming to you from Martinsville Speedway.
Yeah, I didn't put it there. I think it's FS1 this weekend. Although you never know which channel is going to show up. I guess the IndyCar race ended up having an issue this past weekend, and a bunch of viewers of the IndyCar race got switched over to the Cup race for a little bit until they got the power back on out
It's
there.
on
So
FS1.
it is FS1, so I
Yeah.
kind of figured that. So who do you got this weekend? Who's going to win the race? Who's your top 5 guys to put in your lineup? Maybe that's the best way of going about it.
I don't know.
You get more than one guy out of you.
Well, I definitely want to put Ryan in there. Denny. Oh gosh. I guess I'd have to put in Larson. He's on that momentum. You look like you want me. Who are you trying to get me to say?
I'm not trying to get you. You can say whoever you want. That's what I'm saying. Like you got, so I said 5 guys. Whoever you want. I was thinking about like Byron for some reason because there was a spring race we went to. I think that Byron dominated it.
Byron, Bell. I could see Bell doing well there.
Well there. So, just keeping out of people's goofiness, but everybody in the Cup garage really thinks that Ryan should win this weekend already. I've heard some things where they just kind of like, you vote for that. I vote for that too. But I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, it's a short track, so it's a little bit different for the speed. So like, I last week thought Bubba would do really well on a 1.5 miles because they're really dialed in 1.5 miles, and he's really dialed in 1.5 miles. But for the short track stuff, some of these guys put their elbows up and do things, and that's where we could see some tussles. I can't wait for somebody like Kyle Busch and anybody to get next to each other and try to rough each other up a little bit. So, you're trying to pick out another name or two, maybe. So that's
Ross. I can see Ross
Chastain
Chastain mixing it up in there.
Yeah. The tough part now, as you're doing the Fantasy Live League, especially, is now we are 5, 6, 7 weeks in, and if you use the same guy over and over, which is what I like to do with Ryan, I like to use him pretty much at the end of the year, and that way he's not in my head the rest of the year because, usually at that point I've gained a lot of points off of him by then. So but hopefully what we see is just continuation of the speed and continuation of hopefully a good practice. I don't think anybody's hopefully we'll back into the wall or anything like that. And then just get one qualifying lap into the top 10 somewhere. It doesn't have to be at the front. Although, we were at Bristol for the spring last year. And he did qualify in the pool.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But then the tires decided to do a fun thing on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
and the those who had speed didn't necessarily have speed because they might blow up a tire. So I don't think that's going to happen this weekend. I think if they've done any kind of things with tires, these teams have it figured out right now, unless Goodyear sneaks something in on them. So, it's all about the weather, and hopefully it's nice and nice and sunny.
We've been snowed out there. We've been rained out there. It's been hotter than 2 years ago. It was like beating down on us, the sun.
And that was
so
in
hot.
October.
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing.
Yes.
It wasn't like it was in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
So they had a really warm day there
Mhm.
that day. So anybody on the social media sites or anything like that, check in with us if you're going down there. Love to see pictures, photos, videos, anything you got, especially like on our Discord chat or anything like that. So, yeah, I think this is a good week. I mean, let's go ahead and flush everything that's happened the last 3 weeks, get it out of our system, take a deep cleanse, and get ready for a good week of work and whatever you do during this week to get to Sunday.
That's right.
And then let's have some fun on Sunday.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Let's get out of here.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of the podcast. If you'd like to learn more about us, just listen to our very first episode that explores our Blaney racing fandom. You can interact with us on Facebook and Twitter at Team Blaney and on Instagram at team.blaney. Finally, we would like to encourage you to support the Blaney Family Foundation. Established in 2018, this organization supports UPMC sports medicine, fundraisers, events, and membership to the Blaney Bunch Fan Club. To learn more about the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation, please follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Kate Mez. We'll catch you next time on the Team Blaney Podcast.
Good night, Bahamas. Check out the TikTok.